Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. Joel and Jesse are here for you tonight. Unfortunately, we've had a late out. We've had a huge late out. That's Jake. He's out. His missus unfortunately put diesel in an unleaded car and had to basically flooded it, mate. So he's been stuck on the side of the road and waiting to get some shit done to his car, and just pushed him back. He was getting back late. He was happy to do the podcast still, but I'll tell you what, I don't think I want to be starting my week off starting a podcast at about 11 o'clock at night. So I said, don't worry, mate. Don't rush home. Get things done. We will miss you for sure, but get him live and fresh because he's going to be ready for Tuesday night, which is a huge show. Jesse was coming on originally just to talk Supercoach, and then he was going to be able to get off, go to sleep. But the late out from Jake means Jesse is in for the long haul tonight. Shouldn't be a huge one at all because we do want to save a few of these talking points, especially from a Supercoach point of view. We've got a huge episode coming up on Thursday night, so make sure you don't forget that. Instead of Wednesday night, we'll be actually filming Thursday night, so you'll get it Friday. Just that day later, yes, partly due to the fact it's Vegas. Secondly, I will be at the Eel season launch on Wednesday night, so I won't be able to be on, and I believe Jesse's got a work function as well, so just worked a bit better to make it the Thursday night. So just jot that down. A lot of you can't wait for our Supercoach weekly episodes. Just be a day late, but we'll be doing our team reveals, so it's a huge episode, plenty to talk about. But first, Jesse, how's things, mate? How's things since what, Wednesday night we last spoke?
Yeah, the Supercoach show. Good man. Things are good. Obviously, had another big weekend. I don't usually do this thing very often, and it seems back to back. I've been going out and having these weekends, but yeah, I'm tired. Um, Keen to rip into this stuff though. Disclaimer: I didn't really get a chance to watch a lot of these games, if any at all. So yeah, hopefully I can come into it with a little bit of insight into some of the points here because they are very, very valid talking points and there is some good stuff to go from it. But yeah, I didn't actually get to see a great deal of what happened this week. So just looking at the scores and the stats and the Supercoach stuff in general. But yeah, I've watched a lot of the highlights. There was some probably crazy stuff that went down. Looks like it's been a really good trial run, to be fair. Like some of these players that are coming out of nowhere, and even these big upsets too. Like that's the thing, you can't read too much into them, but there's definitely good signs. Like it sets you off on a way to just suss these guys out, which is really handy.
Yeah.
So
It was the punishment for Jesse here, guys, is that he'll probably have to hear my voice a lot more in this podcast because I did watch every single game on the weekend, and I'll back up what he's saying. I thought this weekend's quality did go up a fair few notches thanks to the fact that a lot of the teams did come into it either very close to full strength. Some basically were pretty much full strength. So that the quality, I remember watching that start of the Dogs Broncos game, and that felt like, and there was some stuff in our chats as well, felt like it was like a start of an NRL game for that first 25, 30 minutes. It was a really, really good quality game. So quality, great to see. Now, the intro, I've got a couple of notes I need to go over. Firstly, we're going to pump up. It's Vegas week. I know it's huge for everyone over there. I feel like in a way, last year, that big build-up and everyone was jealous of not being over there. Yes, I'm jealous I'm not over in Vegas, but one thing I feel like it does back here, it just really ramps it up because everyone's already planning Sunday, what they're going to do, the big event. We've got 4 games to watch now. It's going to be a whole day event. Like, it's going to be huge. I'm pumped. I can't wait to see the build-up. It's going to be huge this week. Fox League's back into it. All the shows that are back. Obviously, we haven't left, so we're still here. We're going strong, but promise you now, our show is going to be huge. Tuesday night, our live shows are officially back. So the Tuesday live show is going to be there, 8 o'clock Queensland time, so 9 p.m. New South Wales time, just that little bit later, just while we've got that crossover time-wise. Once that goes back into normality, we both have the same time slots. We'll be back to an 8:30 time slot each and every week. But we'll be talking all things Vegas, the TLT, the impact of that, and just going deeper into whatever talking points have come from the weekend and things like that. But very keen to get back into that. It's a way for us to give back to you guys, be able to communicate with you guys live and on the go. And you can essentially navigate where the shows go on a weekly basis, which is really, really cool. We've had tremendous growth throughout everything. So I feel like these live shows this year are going to be huge. I'm pumped for them. I can't wait. I know Trav and Jake are super keen. I know Jesse's a bit jealous that he's not on him anymore. So he's spewing.
No, not the moment.
We've got him for the super coaches, which is going to be a huge show in itself. We've already teased it. we'll be releasing our teams. Now, another little plug for the Legends group, because what's going to happen here is this is a day later. So actually, you guys will get a bit of extra leeway here, but we do have the Sunday games. We'll, on a weekly basis, we'll give you sort of our team changes and stuff like this. Is obviously going to be a whole team, but then anything post the podcast will go exclusively to our Legends group. So if you want to go know what Jesse's thinking right up to each kickoff, what Trav's thinking, what I'm thinking, any late changes, things like that, or any late VC options or captaincies and stuff like that, you obviously won't know what happens because the podcast has been pre-recorded. If you're in the Legends group, you get to know literally up until kickoff. So that's a really cool benefit we'll have for you this year. And I'll tell you what, that'd be a massive advantage, I feel like, moving forward as we get deeper into the season and things like that. So make sure you become a legend. We're 10 people shy of the giveaway of that club polo shirt. So we need to get to 50. So 10 more people. $2.99 a month is a crazy, crazy deal. It's a steal for the amount of content you get. You get 10% off any League of Inches merch that you're already saving straight away there. And pretty much all our giveaways so far are being hogged by legends because they get double entries. So you're entering all that stuff. You need to be a legend. You just have to be a legend when it comes to League of Inches, and it's cheap as chips. But anyway, Supercoach, let's kick off with it, Jesse, because there's not going to be a whole lot to talk about. Again, we're trying to save a few things so we can talk about on the show, because a fair few of these players will be part of our teams, I believe. So hit us, Jesse. What has maybe score-wise, what's pointed out to you, what's hit you in the head, and what's probably hit you in the nuts in a negative way?
Well, there wasn't too much to take out of the Manly and Penrith game because the sides are so, unrealistic to what they're going to run with. So I didn't really look too much into that. The Tigers of the Para game, I suppose the two big ones. Um, well, Terrell May is an absolute freak. He scored 55. It's not what we're sort of used to getting out of his like big 80-minute stints and 100-ton-up games and that sort of thing. But it's just he's a freak. He's a gun. Watching some of his highlights, it's just there's no reason for him not to be in my side. So it's just good to see him out getting good quality footy anyway for the Tigers. I liked Adam Dewey. Obviously at the halfback, 77 is really nice, but the kicking's really good. So that was kind of what we're sort of going into, thinking if he gets the kicking, all of a sudden he's incredible value. Kelmer's 17 was a bit suspect, I think, because a lot of us are sort of looking at him as the mid-range second rower, but it depends on how much you read into it. Last week he was incredible, and now this week he really fell off. So yeah, the highs and the lows of it all. Big scores throughout the rest of the games. Preston 92. I've found a way to put him in my side. I was always pretty keen on him, and I really like that. And yeah, it's just good. I think their run's quite good for him too. So Preston's 92 could be a really good smoky sort of 600K. Another one in that sort of bracket at the same time, Bo Fermor, 98 points. He's a base stat machine too. So dual center, really handy. And you can kind of put him in with Dylan Lucas as well. Had a really good stint today. And they're very similar and both got that dual. So really handy between them two. Um,
Can
on that
I ask you
80,
one
yeah,
thing, just
cool.
before we keep going for that one? The start of the year, when the attacking stat seems to be down historically, do you think that makes Lucas and Fermor come into the calculations of things a little bit more? Because my thinking with it, because I'm actually starting to think around getting one, if not both of them, in a crazy, crazy world. Because I'm just thinking they should be able to hold their price. If not, maybe perhaps go up a little bit in those early rounds. And then once these attacking beasts start to come back into things and start to take off, that's when you go over to them, at least with one of them, if you start with both of these players.
Yeah, well, the thing is with Fermo, he's got that round one bye. So
Yeah.
it kind of does hurt a little bit, but no, you're definitely right. The stats are there for him. Like they've got the duel, which is really nice, especially early days if things don't go according to plan with your first team. You can move players back and forth, and if you needed to swap out a second rower because they're just doing nothing, it's really good to be able to move a center wing up, or vice versa. I really like Dylan Lucas. I think he's got a lot of upside for him, and with a starting edge spot too. Yeah, I think he's a bit of a no-brainer. I changed my side watching the last set of games that played today, and yeah, I was seeing the stats roll through, and I was looking at Lucas, and I thought, yeah, I've got enough in the bank to put him in the team. So I basically just did a shuffle and put Preston and Lucas in, um, and I really like it. So my team's shifting so much now. Like in this last week, It's really taken shape. I think it's definitely different to what I'd initially planned with, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good plan. I think I probably wouldn't go early on Fermor for that round one. Um, Not to say that it's not a good start. To be fair, like you'll probably go into round two and just be a weapon. But yeah, I really like the Lucas play a bit more, to be honest. And I think the Knights run is good. It's just that round four by. But either way, you can work with it. Um, you just move them on then, I guess, if someone else appears in the attacking side.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a couple of the notable big scores sort of to end the weekend. Ponga's 88 was nice. Um, it's just Ponga doing Ponga things really, so there's not too
For
much
about
to look
60
into.
minutes.
Yeah, it's just he's a gun. He's a definite firm starter now. I think for pretty much everyone. You look at the percentages: Turbo, Ponga, Ayongi. Basically, they're looking real good. I
And
think Drinkwater's.
he stuffed a guaranteed try assist as well. You probably missed it, but he was going
Yeah,
up. He made a massive break. He was coming up to Teddy, and he literally had about three Knights players, two and best on the other side. Just had to draw and pass, and for some reason, tried to just beat Teddy. Teddy, obviously, you can't beat Teddy in those situations. He's too good when it comes to defense, but got tackled, and you could tell they're laughing a bit afterwards. Best was like, mate, you kind of cost me a guaranteed under the poster there. But yeah, that could have been a nice extra couple of points there. And coming off almost edging that 100 points would have been ridiculous.
yeah, in a trial too, that is just sort of
Yeah.
in the motions of it all. So, yeah, I think when it comes to those fullbacks, there's no real reason to not have him, which is really nice to decision to make like in your side for you. But Drinkwater 96 without the goal kicking that we all sort of wanted him to get essentially for the long term to push his averaging up to that 90 plus. He can do it anyway. That's kind of where his value is and what he's 770. um yeah, man, I really like it. I've always said I really like the Drinky play, and it's I think he's if you're going to run the three fullbacks, forget about Latrell to start because obviously he's injured. The perfect candidate in Drinkwater. um that would be my ideal trio if I was going to do it that way. But yeah, if it's two, it's kind of hard to choose all the options. But just another one as well, Kashi, Purdue, 91 points. Beautiful. Love that. Honestly, I've just been like, I've been looking for a center wing in that like 200 odd bracket between 200 and 300 that I can play. If I can put him in my starting side in the four, um, perfect. Like it opens so many doors and you can fix so many things up in your side. There hasn't really been anyone that's presented. And now I'm looking at this 91 that he got with the tries. I'm like, you know what, man? I think we might be able to run with him if he gets that spot. Obviously, the cows draw is not easy, and I don't expect that sort of stuff every week because it's a trial. Like Labour, has his ups and downs at the same time. And when's he due back? But yeah, really promising. Um, there's so many more stats. There's 7 games, 6 games to look into, but yeah, just a couple of the nice ones anyway. It's good to see. But even in that Storm game too, like you just briefly go into it. Utoy Kamani got 82. There's
Yeah.
another,
Off the bench.
yeah, freak. Yeah, that's really good too. So that kind of like puts another front row in the discussion. So yeah, it's been good just looking into the stats and seeing some of these names with these monster scores, thinking if it's worth sort of breaking the side apart again to fit them in. Because I've already got these positions locked down. It's just more
It felt
questions
like
now.
that.
Yeah.
So even like just going back to that Drinky play, and I agree with you. I was watching that today, and he did end up having I think one or maybe two goal kicks. He missed one of those, so he didn't really get. If anything, he lost a couple of points from it. He did get the other one, so it didn't make a big difference to his score at all. One thing that really impressed me was he was shining when the Storm were in their strongest lineup. And I know, yet they were missing one or two of their really big stars, which always would help the Storm. But he was on song from basically the word go. And that was so impressive. And that combination he's got with Dearden is something else. That's a really good combination. And the longer they can stay on the field together, the better it is for the Cowboys. But the question then for me is because I've sort of gone the other way now. I've gone to Iongi because I've just seen Iongi's game and I just have loved every minute of what he's produced so far whenever he's got to be on the field. Now, I'm stuck in two minds because the team I have with Iongi all over the park looks great. I'm really, really happy, but then I'm missing out on potentially huge drinky scores because even though Iongi, yep, youngster in fullback, my belief is he should be able to match it with at least the middle tier sort of fullbacks, if not go a bit further and make a heap of cash. I just don't think he's can get up to those sort of Drinky in that level. And but again, if I go to Drinky, my side changes dramatically. So it's a question I guess we'll answer come Thursday once you do see our teams and how we are looking, because yeah, there's a few big questions out there to ask. I think a lot of Supercoach out there, because I feel like a few are very happy with what we've seen from Myongi so far and almost went, this is a guaranteed. Like you simply have to start him. But
Mm.
this Drinky last match of the trials has thrown an absolute spanner in the works that I wasn't prepared for. I was happy to write him off and to say, yeah, no goal kicking, don't want it. Really tough draw to start, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. You just got to do the math, man. I suppose you got to
Yeah,
think how many points is Yongi going to drop compared to Drinky, and is it worth 500k? I mean, it's a lot of money.
yeah,
If Yongi
probably not.
scores 50 and Drinkwater scores 70, I'm going to take that 20-point gap for the extra 500k to start. You know what I mean? And then you put that in, you invest that 500k into your actual lineup. You're making up the difference. I would say
Yeah,
comfortably. You know what I mean? Like it's not. Yeah, it's hard to not have these guns at the same time. But I think when someone like that presents himself, and you got to remember too, like Youngi's come from the Panthers. He hasn't just walked in from a rubbish side, not training well. Like he was in a good system, training
yeah.
with the best every day. So, like, I expect a lot from him. Honestly, I really
He's
do. And he
silky.
has these glimpses in that game, and you just go, "I'm freaking hell, man! I'm gonna put the C on him. Just lock it in." You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna have these games. He just explodes. So, I'm pretty confident to go the Yongi path, at least to
Yeah,
start, make that coin. But yeah, it does really tempt you when a gun
yeah.
gets a ton up in the trial, and you go, "There's a gun for a reason." Like, I'll take the points. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, I
it's tricky.
agreed. Let's get in the NRL side of things. Terrell May, you mentioned in this in Supercoach, but I wanted to talk about him a bit more because the angle I want to go at this, and it's going to help you a little bit more as well, because yeah, I'm going to touch on the stint on the weekend and how good it was, but I also just want to touch on it with just how good I think this signing and how impressive and how big it is for the club, because I dead set think he can change this club. And everyone's given Luai the raps and the big signing that Luai was, and rightly so. But I tell you what, this guy is something else. I think his stint on the weekend, that first stint against the Eels, I don't have the numbers. I'm not a big stats guy. I don't go over the stats. I just go with what I see. He was an animal. He was an absolute monster. And the Eels pack had no answers whatsoever when it came to him. And he went off. I think he more so went off because it was a trial and Benji didn't want to overdo him for a trial, because he
Mm.
dead set looked like he only just ran out. Like he's extremely fit at the moment. I think I heard something in the off season that he did a marathon or a half marathon or something into doing that 72 hard.
Yeah,
Like he hasn't relaxed
doesn't
at
stop.
all. It's ridiculous. And he's shown the benefits from it all. Like he's an animal that just, and I just think, as I said, for the Tigers, this is exactly what they need. Now, you mentioned Stefano before, but I feel like the Tigers have won in this, because
Oh,
Stefano
big time.
simply wasn't working at the Tigers. And look, he may work at the Storm, no doubt about it. But for mine, Terrell May is just in a league of his own when it comes to that. And I think he's exactly what the West Tigers need.
Yeah, well, that's you put it in the comparison with Stefano at the same time, and you see a lot of it out of the Tigers where these players they really get complacent, and like they
Mm,
don't really meet their expected potential. Even when they go to these clubs, and you think this player's a weapon, they have a gun, and then they just regress so much. But I feel like when you look at Terrell May, he's just a different breed. Like there are very few players like him, not even just in the front row position, but in the league itself, that can keep up physically with a player like him. And you're right, like who has an answer for that kind of physicality? You can't stop the guy. It's like, well, what do you do? Like, you don't have a response. You just have to kind of roll over and let him get his offload done, and try
yeah,
and make the next tackle, because you can't stop that kind of thing. And it's a good foundation to set for a club, especially one that's been struggling for so many years, to have that kind of ethic and work rate. Um, and just yeah, like freak geneticism right in the front, right in the middle. Like the team will follow that just naturally, because someone's running a path right there for them. So it's huge for the Tigers, man. I think it's really going to turn a page for them. And it's kind of funny to think like a front row is going to change the dynamic of a side so much, but I really think it's going to put them on the front foot every game that they run with,
yeah,
and it's going to lead to positivity for every set. And Yeah, like there's a lot of expectation around the Tigers. They've had some really good signings outside of this, but I really think that Terrell Mays is going to be the difference that they'll need in the middle because they weren't seeing it with Clemmer. They
No.
like Stefano's a good player. Obviously, Storm got their eyes on him too, but he can only do so much, and I don't think he's going to fit the same bill. Like you put Terrell May in that Storm side, my God, just give him everything right now. So yeah, it's really big, man. I'm really keen to see him go through this year, and it's disappointing, obviously, from the Roosters' perspective that we had to lose him like that for whatever happened. But um, yeah, well done to the Tigers. They've got a world class player for a long time. So
It's
yeah,
it's funny you mentioned that because I watched today's game of your mob, and we will talk about them down the track. But I just sat there going, kept thinking about Nay, just thinking,
mm,
this is exactly the player they need right now. It's very, very clear. And if it felt like if they went to market tomorrow and were able to buy a forward, that's who they would buy. And it's like you just
yeah,
got rid of him. You just
I know.
literally got rid of the bloke. So, and I don't want to go too high into this and put too much pressure or take off too much, but the aura I feel like Terrell May's already got around this club. He's a leader. He's not just leading with his words. He's leading by his actions as well. It's sort of a give me the ball and then follow and come after me and
Mm,
follow me, boys. Let's get this done. And again, that's just those sorts of players. Like I know him and Luai have been a bit mouthy in the media a little bit, saying, "Oh, we're going to improve, not just going to improve, we're going to play finals and stuff." And people don't like it. I love it. Just they need that sort of player there, and they've got a few of them now. And I think the Tigers could be one of those teams where if you get them on the day and you don't give them the respect they deserve, you could have your pants pulled down pretty quickly. So just you don't want to be going into the Tigers games treating them lightly at all.
mm,
The next game I want to speak about, obviously the Charity Shield is a big one. Probably the one of the stronger showings for the round in terms of personnel. Obviously, the South news was huge. We will get to the South news, but first of all, before we go down that path, I just want to give the Dragons an absolute rap. And a lot of we keep talking about signings, but what I'm loving so far this year is a lot of these signings are making an impact and they're actually changing their team and their club and doing what they're getting signed for, which is really, really impressive. A lot of the times you'll see signings come over and they're sort of just a bit meh. But I know they're just trials. But what I saw on the weekend from Cook, Gutho was absolutely huge. I sat there as a para fan just thinking, I just watched Iongi tear it up, but goodness me, if we could have just found a way to make Gutho work, and I don't know, it would have been nice for one
mm,
more year, but it wasn't to be, and he's going to be huge for this Dragon side. Like one thing I like about Gutho was some of the fullbacks, and we'll talk about it with Teddy down the track, but some of these fullbacks, when they've got pressure to do a bit more, they don't really handle it. For mine, Gutho loves it. Gutho loves being able to take control in a way. But what I liked from him on the weekend the most was he actually put a bit of faith in these halves, which there's been a lot of pressure on him. There's been a lot of people writing them off. Still don't think they're the flashiest playmakers in the competition, if not probably the worst, but he let them play to their abilities. And so did Cook. Like they gave him the ball when they called for it, let them do their thing, and let them play to their strengths. So that's only can be a good thing, I think, for the Drags moving forward. And my last one I want to talk about, Val Holmes, who I think has been slept on massively this offseason in terms of a signing, in terms of the impact he has. And what I think his impact has been so far at this club is the fact that all their backline, and they were missing a couple of their big name starters, or felt like guaranteed starters. He's given them some confidence. He's changed the way a lot of these, like Moses Sully looks different. He looks like a really quality center now. He looks like he's ready to take that next leap that everyone's sort of spoken about for years now. He just never has done so. But now with Holmes there, this backline just looks completely different. Like they've just got this
yeah.
breath of fresh air and they've gone, all right, we're grabbing the ball here and let's go. We can score some tries, and we saw it on the weekend.
Yeah, well, the three signings that they got, you can there's a couple more in there, but you look at the players that they got in there, and it was very clever recruitment by the Dragons because they've just lost, their two best players essentially, and they've replaced them with three of the best players in their own sides collectively that came through. So experience, international experience as well. It's exactly what the Dragons needed to sort of redo themselves and come back as like this, what was a while ago a really good team. So and it shifted a lot of their style too. Like everything was very one dimensional, Hunt to Lomax down the right, same thing. But now the left edge is humming. And they've sort of flipped it around. Like Finau got 4 tries outside of Holmes. Like anyone that's playing outside these guns, they're going to get rewarded by it. And Sully's working with one of the best centers in the league at the same time. You've got to expect him to improve naturally as well. I'm really keen to see what Tuipulotu does outside of Holmes this season. I think he's going to go nuts, to be fair. And yeah, it's just like they haven't really lost their legs either. Like Gutho, Holmes, Cook, like these guys are getting a bit on, but they're all still rapid and they're just
Yeah.
great for the team. And it's they like if you're giving the halves a bit of rope and letting them play their game, because that's half their problem. Or half the everyone wants talking about the Dragons potentially getting the spoon because their halves are so bad. When you look at what the Rabbitohs did, and they didn't really trust Ilias to play, and they disjointed their actual structure to avoid getting him ball. That's going to break it up before you've even given him the chance to do anything. But let them play, take the pressure off them. Like you got solid, experience throughout the park at the moment for the Dragons. Let these two just do what they got to do and develop with each other. Keep the expectation off them, and I'm sure that Gutho will take a lot of the weight when it comes to, who's to blame for a certain loss that might happen here or there, or Cook or Holmes or any of these guys, and they'll take it off the halves, which will get all the bad press you could imagine. So, yeah, they're cooking something up, man. The
Yeah.
Dragons. I think they're working well as a unit, which is it's really nice. And I think that's probably the only way they can really go very far this season is if they all just collectively back each other. Um, but yeah, we'll just have to see obviously how long they can do it because they always tend to start quite well and they always fall off a little bit in the end. But yeah, no, I'll be watching what happens with this side because it's definitely good signs and they've had a good preseason too.
Yeah, their recruitment, looking back on it, has been very, very smart. As we've always said, we're not worried about this year for their recruitment. We're worried about maybe 2 to 3 years' time when they're on the
Yeah,
back end and they're carrying their legs and things like that. But for now, fantastic recruitment. I reckon Dragons fans will take a poor third year or something if it means regular finals football the next couple of years and right in the thick of things when it matters. On the flip side, unfortunately, we've got South Sydney. Now, before
mm,
kickoff in the lead up to this game, did not start well at all. It was just after, I think, our draft. 2 days
yeah,
later, we get the news. No Murray. No, and Murray's basically seasoned now. There is whispers he might come back towards the back end of the year, but I anticipate the way this is going, South Sydney might not even be in finals contention by then. And they might just say, you know what, just let's get him ridiculously fit for next
yep,
year and get his body right, which he deserves to do. Latrell firstly came out that it was just a hamstring sort of strain, but then it's now come out he's out for another like 6 weeks or something.
yeah,
It's more than just a strain. There's some things going on there with his hemi, and this isn't the first time with his hemi as well, which isn't great because he looks extremely fit. Even in the change rooms on the weekend, I was noticing he was doing a little bit of the talking and trying to help out some of the players, which I really like. He seems to have really brought in this off season, which we always thought Wayne would have this effect on him, and it was up to him for how long he could keep it for. Positive sign. So it would have been really nice to see what Latrell we got come out from round one onwards, but that's going to be pushed back. I just hope this doesn't have too much an effect on him or I guess South Sydney because there's a realistic chance now when you look at their draw and stuff and you look at things the start of the year, they might not win a game or struggle to win a game before he comes back. Like you're talking
mm,
about Cody Walker's not fit yet either, and there's talk he's missing at least round one, if not maybe a week or two more. And there's just some couple like Campbell Graham. There's still no one really knows about him.
yeah,
It's not a great start for South, and now they've got their big import signing. Dodd has been suspended for round one. So 2 weeks ago, you're talking they've got a spine of Latrell, Walker, and Dodd to start round one. You're now talking about the fact that none of them could basically be there for round one. It's huge because all off season you basically take it away. Now there is talk, and the upside to this is Humphries. His
yep,
impact on the weekend, as soon as he came on, was noticeable, very much noticeable. He's I don't know what Manly obviously was stacked in a couple
oh
of
dear,
positions and stuff, but he has just come out of the woodworks this off season, and I believe is ahead of Dodd. Even when Dodd is fit, I'd be putting Humphries at halfback, if not hooker. Like he has to just be on the field. He has to be
yeah.
starting in one of these positions.
Yeah, you got to be playing Humphries somewhere. I think Dodd's kind of shot himself in the foot now, hasn't he? I think what's going to happen is Humphries will probably start, and then he'll kill it, and then there'll be no room for Dodd. But yeah, I think Manly let him go to get Brooks, so
Yeah,
beats me there. Yeah, he's a goer, man. He's a weapon of a little player. So they'll definitely get a run. But God, this Rabbit side now, man, they've fallen apart. It's been a rough week and a half. Like they're something's cursed in their training center, man, because they're dropping like flies. Um, we've got Murray gone now for the season. Freaking heartbreaking. Campbell Graham's broken his hand. Latrell's done his hammy. Aiken's still injured. You look around and there's like half a side left, and it hasn't even kicked off yet.
yeah,
So there's all this hype and big build up around the Rabbits are turning around. They're going to get better. Wayne Bennett's here. He's got nothing to work with. And we worked it out in their preview too. Their run's not generous. Like it's going to be a struggle to start the season. And yeah, I think it's not going to look good until Latrell's back. And then even then, what happens when Latrell's back? Like how much damage has been done at that point? I don't think with Murray they'll bring him back this year. Like an Achilles rupture is quite heavy, five
yeah,
plus months. Like it'll be a season-ending thing for him. And even if it is, they somehow manage to get their way into the eight and he's back in the last couple of rounds. Like he hasn't played all year. Like what good is that? It's Murray. Like he's obviously talent, but you still don't want to throw him into his first games of an entire season after an Achilles in the finals. It's a bit much. Um,
yeah.
yeah, all of the big expectation and the hype around the Rabbits has quickly fizzled out. Um, I'm actually trying to just avoid them now, to be honest. I just don't really
Yeah.
want to get involved. I
Yeah.
don't really want to get involved in any of the Rabbits players on a Supercoach side of things. But yeah, there's warning signs a lot. Was there any major positives to come out of the game from them individually though?
I mean, Humphreys was a standout.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of concerns around their edge defense at the moment because the Dragons, even though we just gave them a lot of raps, that's not the strongest edge that they'll come up against in that opening 9 week run that we continue to talk about for South. So I'm really worried about that. Obviously, Campbell Graham will help, but if he's not fit and can't get his body right, he'll be in and out of the side. There's not much help there. So extremely worried for South with that. Just before we talk about any other perhaps individuals that stood out, how long do we palm this injury run off for as bad luck? Because this is now the second year in a row where they've copped not just one or two, they've been depleted. And I've already had a number of South either fans reach out to the page or talk to them and things like that. And some of them are starting to ask some serious questions about this, the coaching staff and the training staff, and saying, when are we going to make some changes here? Because you can't, like, there is bad luck and that there is so much things as clubs do go on some of these runs, unfortunately. But I don't know. It's starting to
Mm,
get to a bit of a question there that unfortunately might have to be raised. If not, it's already spoken about in the four walls. We'll never know. But I'll be surprised if soon, once this Vegas build up maybe happens, we start to hear a bit more in the media around this.
yeah. It's
Because there was one
unusual
training
how
session.
many.
They both went.
Yeah, they're just both on the same day, and it was like up to the
Yeah.
same time. You know what I mean? And it's just strange. Like, what is it about this that's causing it? Is it the training? Is it the regime itself? Is it the ground they're running on? Like, there has to be something, man, because you're not seeing these kind of injuries happen in other clubs to the extent that they are.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, is it the conditioning of the players that's not good enough? Like, are they not putting the work in individually, or is it something? There has to be something they got to look into. But I think it definitely warrants an investigation.
It's got to be an
I can't. There's
investigation.
got to be. There has to be an investigation. When was the last time the Rabbits ran out with a full strength side? I don't even
That's
know
the
what a
thing,
full
I think.
strength Rabbitohs look like anymore. It's been 2
No.
years plus.
No. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. Unfortunately, in our preview, when I remember we did it, we spoke about South and we said, like, their full strength could challenge the top teams. But the fact of the matter is, if we go to reality, we haven't seen a full strength lineup for years now. Like,
Mm,
they can't be a realistic contender at the moment because even as you said before, with the players out, is only human. He can't sprinkle too much magic dust on reserve graders and pray that they can play for like a half a season or a full season and get away with it. Like, I just can't see it.
yeah, it's too much to put on those sort of players, and their results have shown for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's hard to blame the side or the Rabbitohs are doing shit and they can't win a game. Well, it's like, well, when you're running out with you know half your team is reserves and they've played what 4 or 5 games this year and it's patchy, you can't develop any form. It's just It's just unfortunate, and you can't do much to avoid injury sometimes. It will happen when it happens, but it's happening quite a lot,
Yeah.
a concerningly high amount of times. So, yeah, something's gotta happen there, but they're not gonna have a side left if it keeps going this way. By round 6, it'll all be over.
Yeah, exactly. You
Yeah.
mentioned a player that stood out for me. Keon Matangi. He obviously didn't get the
Mm.
Cam Murray role that I think you and Trav both sort of predicted or would have liked to have seen once
Yeah.
his Murray news broke. But on the edges, still, if this is what they're set on playing, which it looks like early days they are, he had a great sort of start. He scored a lot of his points in the back end, where maybe the Dragons, you could argue, did switch off a little bit, started to rest some players, and they just sort of went down a couple of gears. But did what he needed to do, scored a really nice lot of points in a Supercoach point of view. Tallis Duncan looks to have scored that Cam Murray role, which, again, from a Supercoach point of view, it looks great. But
Mm.
again, he didn't score great considering the work he sort of did, and he just couldn't do anything attack-wise. It was basically all defense. So not really many positives to come out of it so far from the Rabbitohs, but again, we'll see there's a big 2-week window now to come for them that I'm very interested to see what happens. And hopefully, in a way, they stay off the training park, because them in
Yeah.
training park at the moment does not end well. So just stay off for now. And if I was Wayne, I'd say, let's have the week off, boys. We'll come back and
Yeah.
just sort this mess out next week. So go and
Just
enjoy Vegas.
put them all on ice. Just rest them until
just,
round 1 starts.
just
Don't take
don't
the
do it
risk.
to yourself.
No.
Next game up, I mentioned at the start of the podcast, it was sort of felt like to a lot of us here at the show that it felt like it was round 1. It was a Broncos and versus the Bulldogs, and again the quality was fantastic. I really enjoyed watching this game. I want to talk. I do want to talk about the Bulldogs quickly, because I do want to mention their halves, and not just their halves, but their 1, 6, and 7. Now, Matty Burton is sort of out of this conversation. I think I said it last year. For mine, he's become a 5'8". What he needs, though, he needs a bit more. I don't know if it's star power, but he just needs a bit more. I feel like at 1 and 7 for this team. Now, don't get me wrong. Sexton has had his moments and he's looked okay. I just I'm a bit off with the Bulldogs at the moment. I don't want to be too harsh as well, because I think they'll still be finals football. But I think they're at the stage now where they want to get into that top 4 and really challenge those top teams. And I'm just a bit worried from what I saw on the weekend, when the Broncos seem to go to another level. And you can whinge and say, oh, it was a trial, don't read too much into it. But I will read a bit more into this game, because, as I said, both teams started pretty much full strength, or as close to it as possible. They didn't have an answer for it. And it just felt like it was the Broncos in control majority of that game. And I think we both had our doubts around Connor Tracy last week, when on the
Mm.
Supercoach show, Trav was mentioning him and saying a good viable option for the CTW position, but not to bore those non-Supercoach players too much. But we also came back and just said, I don't know about him. I really don't. And I just think, for the
Yeah.
Dogs' sake, to become that elite team that they want to be, and that the Thompson, so Leo Thompson next year will be a huge one, but it still doesn't fix that gap that I feel like they've got. When you compare them to the other top teams, 1 and 7 are a huge concern for mine.
Yeah, it's just the spine, man. The Dogs did so much last year, and it was off the back of, well, the effort Serraldo put in to build a defensive juggernaut. And that was what they worked off. They were a solid defensive side. Um, and they've got the attacking guns here and there. They've got Carraz and Stephen Crichton and a few of these kick out as well. Like, they've got the players that can do it. But yeah, you talk about you look at the Sharks, you know what I mean? They've almost got everything they need for a perfect recipe to win, but they've got Kennedy at the back, and it's that you just think about it, you go, oh, these guys can't really, win a comp with Kennedy at fullback. Connor Tracy come from the Sharks. They obviously decided to keep Kennedy in that position over him, but then you start to look into, okay, well, is he the fullback that's going to win you a comp? And at the same time, are the halves at the level that they're going to win you the comp, if not the fullback itself? And yeah, like they've built a team of, you know misfits in a way. Like, they've just got the outcasts of a lot of clubs. And sometimes it works out really well, and they've got a good formula going. But yeah, I just don't think they've got that X factor. They're like next level. Um, that's going to break open a game. Like Connor Tracy can do it on a blue moon
Mm.
here and there, but it's not consistent. He won't be able to bang out, like, even from the Supercoach side of things. He's not going to bang out those hundreds plus scores every week like you're going to get from a Ponga or Travojevic or Tedesco or these big guys. Admittedly, there aren't that many of those sort of players in the league, so it's kind of hard. Um, but yeah, I think just for their next level, like if they really wanted to be in contention and pushing for that premiership, I just think positionally they're probably a couple really key important places off.
Yeah.
And they haven't really had an answer for it for a while too. So yeah, they're still a good side though. Like, I still put them right up there with
Yeah.
the mix of them. But then as soon as the going gets into, into the final side of things, like I just can't look at that team and just go that they're going to beat Melbourne this week.
Mm.
Like, it'll never come into I'm never gonna think that until, they have shored up there. If it's not the
Yeah.
entire spine, like, not everyone's Melbourne. You can't have a 1, 6, 7, and 9 that are the best in their divisions. But, if 2 or 3 out of those 4 are top tier, like, you have to give them a shot. I just think, yeah, Burton can't do it all himself.
Yeah.
Um, he's only one man, you know what I mean? And, he'll have these games here and there too where he won't really kill it as much as he could. But that's the thing, I don't think Sexton's gonna pick up the slack. And I don't think Connor Tracy's going to have an answer for what the side needs if they're behind. So
And I actually
yeah,
think this is a good conversation to have around the Dogs, and Dogs fans don't listen to this and get pissed off. Don't think we're having a crack, because what we're
yeah,
trying to say is that the Dogs have elevated themselves now to be in contention for that top tier. Like, that's a great thing, because even think as little as 18 months ago, you would never have thought that with this Dogs
mm,
club and how they were going. So this is a good thing. We're just starting to already think bigger picture, which again, you don't normally get to do. We're already assuming you're in finals football this year. And we're just thinking, oh, hang on, there could be a couple of issues there, because, yeah. And for mine, it was interesting. I want to know your thoughts around this, because this isn't about the game. A few of the one of the boys put the idea in the chat about Crichton. Now, Crichton originally, I believe, signed to be their fullback, and then things changed. He
mm,
became centre, and he was happy for it. He's obviously the best centre in the competition. There's no doubting that. But let's say you start with Tracy at fullback, which I think they'll do. I pretty much can put my house on it. Let's say after 6 weeks it's not working. And I don't think Blake Taff has shown anything apart from his bleached blonde weird hair that he's much to go for either for the Bulldogs, unfortunately. Do you start to look at Crichton and go, you know what? We know this bloke is an absolute freak. Do we give him the one? And then if they do that, having him and Burton in around the middle of the field, organising
mm,
play and that a lot more, all of a sudden you're going, okay, now they're starting to get to that spine we're talking about, because
yeah,
Crichton getting his hands on the ball a lot more is nothing but danger.
yeah, 100%. I think they probably should have done this last year
Mm.
when Crichton got there, because it was, he did it for the Panthers and it was always very impressive. And he's a quality player. He's the kind of player that they need for that kind of position too. So it's really hard to take him out of the centers though, because
Yeah.
that's obviously where he's so good. So it's like, what, you're just changing one thing to another. Fullback's different, but yeah, I think he could definitely do a job. Honestly, I really think he could. And like, what you were saying before about the dog supporters, like, it's a good discussion. The dogs are in the discussion for
Yeah.
a premiership. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very quick turnaround from what was 3 years ago when they were getting belted. So yeah, I think they've come a really long way. And I would like to see that move, to be honest. I'd like to see him trial it. But
Mm.
again, their foundations are so solid, and the structure is what they have built themselves off. Would it change a lot? Like, how much would the Dogs actually have to change that up to get him out of the centers? Because I'm sure they've got enough centers and wingers in that now, or even put Tracy in the centers and just swap the two
Yeah.
of them, because he played center for the Sharks and he played really well there.
Yeah.
So
He was good.
yeah, so like that's a very easy position to switch. But obviously, what do we know? He hasn't done it yet. So, and then when it comes to the fullback side, he started with Taff.
Yeah.
Like, it was Taft's shirt to lose. So yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen for Crichton. Otherwise, it probably would have already. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I agree. On the Broncos side of things, there's sort of two talking points I want to come at here. Now, I want to talk about just how impressed I've been with them so far. The thing is, there's already people going, oh, it's a trial game, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's all we can go off is what we've seen so far. And this was from a playing group that, yep, they won the preseason challenge last year as well, but they've completely changed, in my opinion. Everything I see from them, whether it's an interview, training paddock, on the field the last 2 weeks, it has just been super, super impressive. And to buy into the Madge era as quickly as these players seem to have done is a huge credit to this playing group, because we all heard the rumors, we all heard the stories. There were superstars. When you have that mind frame about some of these players, you just think they're going to put their nose up and go, no, this is what I am, and you can't change me. They look like they've gone, you know what, I'm going to swallow my pride because this club isn't where it should be. I know that. I want to deliver this club a premiership that it deserves to have by now. I've just been really, really impressed with some of these players, because let's name him. Obviously, Walsh is one of them. There's no finger painting anymore. He's got in amongst his work on the weekend. I thought he was fantastic doing it. Didn't overplay his hand. If anything, he was a bit more control with a lot of what he was doing, but still had some of those really good moments. The other one was obviously Pat Carrigan, who this time last year, got in a fight with Adam Reynolds and was basically off the chain in a way. Seems to have really got his life off the field sorted by a few of the reports out there. I think he's settled down a little bit with a chick in that as well now, which is always handy. I think we all can put our hand up and say life's a lot better when you got stable environment when it comes to that sort of thing. So his move from lock to prop, now it might not seem like a lot, but he's got to now take those hit ups. He's got to now be the first off a kickoff, and is that, and he was arguably one of the best locks in the game. So he could have turned around and gone, mate, I'm not going to prop. I'm one of the best locks in the game, but no, swallow the pride, do what's best for the team. And the balance of that team all of a sudden in the forwards especially just seems so much better, because it looked like on the way, I don't know if this is how it will go on the field. I think they'll alternate with this, but Payne Haas seemed to do a bit of a shortest early stint, which meant Carrigan went for further. And then they sort of went and changed again by the time Carrigan got a bit tired. A fresh Haas was on, and you sort of always have one of them on the field at a time, which I think is perfect. That is so dangerous.
Yeah, well, you're putting two of the best forwards, you're alternating them together. You're not taking them both off at the same time. Like that's what's half the problem with the Broncos, is that when they're both not on there, you can't replace those two guys. So yeah, he's obviously found out what the club needed, and the players have backed him, and they're listening and they're doing their jobs, which is really good for him. The Broncos aren't a side that should be missing finals. Like, that's just putting it plain and clear. There's been too much controversy around them. There's been a lot of talk around the players as an individual group instead of a unit. But yeah, no, Madge has obviously done what he's had to do. The players have taken it on board, and expecting them to perform like they should, or like they're expected to anyway. So there's just a lot of guys need to grow up. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the way it kind of went there, and they just need to be whipped into play. And to be fair, when you put like Reynolds and Hunt next to each other, mate,
That
if it's working,
combo is
it's working real well,
ridiculous.
working really
With
well.
Walsh as well out the back, and just chimed in with those two. That was my next point. I'm glad you went into it. That, like, no, ma'am. And if I'm ma'am, I'm watching this at the moment going, well,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
this is
rush him
14.
back. If they can continue the way this is looking like it's going to go, there's no reason for mine where obviously Reynolds will obviously go down. We know what Reynolds' body is like now, unfortunately, and that'll create a bit of time for man when he does come back to get in this team. But at full strength right now, if Moses fit, he's probably my hooker. But in saying that, Pakes hasn't done anything wrong so far in what he's been
Yeah.
given. But I just would go Moser personally, and then I'd have Hunt and Reynolds in my halves with Walsh. I think what they do for Walsh, I don't think many people will understand it, but that experience to tell Walsh and go, mate, just chill here for a second. I think it's going to be invaluable for this team this season. It's going to make him really, really dangerous, because we all saw Walsh last year continue just to overplay his hand a lot and make so many mistakes. I think he had the most errors in the game by a long stretch. And yes, that's going to naturally come with a player of that stature. But if you can just somehow control it somewhat, like these two will do, and let him play his natural game still, that is just a recipe for disaster for other teams, because you won't be able to stop it.
No, and it's not going to fatigue him as fast either. That's,
Yeah.
always see it with Walsh. The 70th minute, he's cramped up every game, because he's been trying to do everything. He's the second receiver on every ball. He's trying to be in and amongst it. But you've got Hunt and then Reynolds, one side or the other, saying just take a breath, pick your run, you know, don't overplay your hand, but choose your moments. And that's where Walsh really excels, is when he chooses his moments and he actually gets there, because you can't stop him when he starts dancing around. And then he's lightning. So yeah, it's gonna make him really good, to be honest with you. And oh, look, I don't like seeing the Broncos win a lot. That's not a side that I particularly follow a great deal. But when it's entertaining footy, it's entertaining. You can't deny it. Um, yeah, I think they've done something pretty good here. To be fair, who knows what it's going to do to them as a long term thing with their cap? But obviously they're thinking about the now, and I think the now is quite positive for what they've got going on. So yeah, freaking
I think they've got
old
to the
boys.
point where the Broncos have said, you know what, let's let's have some long term pain for some short term gain, and I
Yeah,
think they're going to go really hard the next 2 years to win this premiership. And it might sound crazy to a lot, but if you look at that team on paper, last year seems like it's a blip in the radar, and that they just got that much quality all over that park where I think they go straight back into contention this year. That's how big I'm rating this Broncos side so far from everything
mm,
I've seen. And we always said that about Madge. We said the Madge era is going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be a butting heads from the get go, and we can tell that quite easily from the get go, or it's going to actually work short term, which is going to make them very, very dangerous. And I feel like it's going to go the latter. And yeah, I'll be keeping a huge eye on the Broncos this year and probably next.
yeah.
Next game up was the other Queensland Derby of the Dolphins versus the Titans. Now, I don't. This was a weird game because I was last week bagged the Titans. We were very strong in the Titans last week. We did not fancy what we've seen whatsoever from the Titans. They turned it around a big way, and they had to come out. And even though it was a trial, they had to make a statement on the weekend. And I feel they somewhat did that. Now, first of all, the big shout out to Tino. He was huge. His first stint was one to say, I'm back, and boys, let's not do what happened last week again. I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again. Now follow me, because you're all basically not up to NRL standard. Now let's go. And his first couple of runs, he was breaking the line. There was an offload in there. He looked great. He looked really, really good, actually. So I think he's going to be absolutely huge for the Titans and adds that RCG. Secondly, the halves. They Foreign went onto the bench, came on and played some sort of middle role, which I did not get at all, and he's now injured because of it. It just didn't look great, and I cringed every time someone ran near him, and it just wasn't good to see. I personally, before these injuries, still had Foreign as my halfback for this team because I felt like they needed that person who could just guide him around the park from A to B and basically be an on-field coach for him. I still feel like this team does need that because the attacking is all over the park here. And that leads me to the Jaden Campbell and Brimson halves pairing that they've gone with. Jaden Campbell seems to be playing the halfback role. Brimson's playing at 5'8", and then Keeney's out the back. Now, on their day and when they're on, that is top tier
Mm,
excitement. That is dangerous. You don't want to let that forward pack get on the front foot because those three will have an absolute field day, and to the point where you could be having games where all three of them have scored a double or things like that. That's how exciting this can get. On the flip side, it sort of opens you up a little bit because, like I just said, if the game's not going according to plan, I feel like these guys will struggle to be able to get it back and have that kicking game to go, let's turn that fullback around and get on the front foot. We've seen it so many times with the Storm or Penrith, to a lesser extent because he hasn't played much, Moses' kicking game for the Eels. We've just been able to see them be able to turn the game around just in one kick. Campbell and Brimson doesn't have that kicking game, and unfortunately, and Kenny doesn't need to, but he doesn't really have that kicking game either. And that's the
mm.
only real concern because, as I said, excitement factor is off the chain. But the Titans have never had a problem with that.
Yeah, they look lethal in attack with the on paper. That's the thing with the Titans. You look at their side on paper, and you think their forward pack is elite.
Yeah.
You've got guns everywhere. Their depth is insane. I don't feel like you can really lose too much out in the
No.
forward side of things. And then you look at the backs, and you've got Brimson and Campbell, who are just, yeah, like you said, on their day, just attacking weapons. Again, the kicking side of things might hurt him a bit, and that's why Foreign's so invaluable. But his body's always been a bit how you going at the best of times to put him in the middle and get him to cop some physical contact. It's the last thing you need from him. Um, Keeney's going to be one of the best fullbacks we'll have in the future. So yeah, they're a side that will probably just have to win their games by outscoring opponents. To be honest, if the going gets tough for them, and I don't think they're really going to lack too much on the attacking side. I think they've got enough going there. They can definitely win a game. Um, but yeah, you're probably right on that side, man. Like I think with Jaden Campbell, it's in the 7. I think he's going to do good. Honestly, I think you can't knock a player of that sort of quality. Like he's got natural talent. I think he'll just adapt to a position where he gets put into. And I think Brimson's best position is 5'8". So, you put the two best players that you've got in those positions attacking wise, and they'll probably do really well together. I saw Brimson got 2 tries. Like he's not gonna mess that up often, especially in 5'8". So yeah, it just depends what happens. Like Foreign's gonna be out for what, 6, 8 weeks?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's a while, so they're going to have to commit to this now, which is good because I suppose the hesitations around the halfback side of things is like if it doesn't work, how soon is it going to be before he has to change? And then does the Brimson come out, or does Campbell move, and does Keeney get shifted? And that's the problem. Is like, well, there's so much has to move for these guys to make that halfback play. Now Foreign's not available, so he's got to commit and just let them work it out. But I think they'll do well. Honestly, I think Campbell's going to do good in the 7. And
Yeah.
Brimson's just a quality player when he's fit, and that's going to be half their other issue at the same time as well. It's just these guys just drop off so fast. But man, the Titans on paper look fantastic. Maybe last week was an anomaly, or maybe it's just the Tino's presence, sort of leading him forward. But yeah, it's good to see him back as well.
It definitely is, and I think the other factor of this is, unfortunately, calling a spade a spade. The Brimson's body has consistently let him down as well, so there's a bit of pressure
Mm.
now because there's no foreign. So, and I think Carter Gordon might have a little injury as well, which
Yeah,
has not meant he's a guarantee to start in the early rounds either. So there's just a little bit of pressure there for that Haas combination to not just work, but to actually stay on the field for a while and create a bit of consistency around that playing group and make sure they're both there. Because the more that they can gel, and we're sitting here saying like this pairing of with add Keeney into the mix as well, and even Verrills, who I've always had a rap on Verrills. I think he's a great
mm,
player. So if these 4 can get gelling and actually play some consistent football together, I do believe with the forward pack there and that backline's got some great sort of plays in there as well. There is no reason why on paper and theoretically this team can't be challenging for a top 8 berth. Like that's where they should be aiming for. We're just always hesitant because of, unfortunately, this history at this club. So
yeah,
hopefully they make us eat our words this year, because I actually would like to watch a Titans team that is consistently up and about, and they're one of the most exciting teams in the competition to watch. So I'm really keen to see that and actually add that bit of mongrel to them where they start to bash teams a bit, because with this forward pack now, they've got the capabilities of doing that. Tino and RCG will not sit there and let teams try and bash them. I can guarantee you now. So they got to get
yeah,
on the back of that and have a bit more aggro all across the park and make sure that defensive wall is there. The
yeah. And then you
Dolphins. Oh,
Dolphins.
sorry, go on. Go on.
No, I was going to say you need to throw bloody David Fafita and Fermor into the mix of the forwards at the same
Yeah.
time. Plus, you've got
It's,
Jolliffe and Fodawaker and the rest of them chipping away,
Randall
waiting
had
to
a
come
great
on.
great year last
Yeah,
year. Like it's
just stupid, man. Their depth's so stacked. Like it's so stacked. All those guys will walk into pretty much every club. So yeah,
I
do
almost feel
more
like
with it.
saying, if this let's just say every single player of this club went down the road to the Broncos, we'd be looking at that lineup going, that should be a top 14 pretty much in a way. Like that's
Yeah,
where this side, in my opinion, should be. But it's just because the name and the jersey, it feels like
yeah,
we're
I know.
consistently going, oh, yeah, I don't know. But
Yeah,
if it had someone that like a Storm jersey on, you'd be like, mate, these guys are almost a guarantee for the fall, like every year. Like that's where they
100%.
should be. So
Yeah, I know. It's just weird, isn't it? But then
it's,
they
it's
always seem to
crazy.
lose these games where you
Yeah.
expect and more from them. Like it's not, it's for a reason. Like we look at the Titans and they lose these games for
Yeah.
whatever reason. They just do. So yeah,
Let's
not
see
good
how
enough.
they obviously got the bye round 1, which feel like in a way Des would hate now because they just had a really good win. They looked a much better team. I reckon he would have liked him to go again and just back that
momentum.
up. Now they've got an extra week break, so basically 3 weeks until they play again. Not ideal, but he'll probably drill him in the training paddock this week and then let him taper off as we get into it. The Dolphins, not too much to talk about when it comes to the Dolphins. I just want to mention we've spoken about halves a couple of times already this episode. I want to talk about the halves a little bit because I looked at young Katoa again, he's still improving, in my opinion. He's still learning the game. This is no harp on him. Averillo, they've tried him once again on the weekend in the 5'8" position. If I'm being honest, I think Nicarima, when he came on, looked the dangerous out of all three of these players. So I don't know what's happened to Nicarima there, but why he's coming off the bench all of a sudden and out of favour, it feels like. I'm not too sure because even last year, Nicarima seemed to be the pick of the bunch more consistently than not. So I'm not too sure what's happening there. If they just like his versatility, but I don't think the Dolphins are in a stage where they can just pick someone for their versatility on the bench if he's better than some of these starting players. Like just put your best players in on the field and make it happen. So it's the same as this Bostock move to center. It feels like they're stuck on. I don't quite get it because their backline for mine looked good last year. And I know they've got a couple of nice little signings there. They've got like Junior Tupu from the Tigers, who looks to be a good young player, and a couple of others there. But for mine, their backline seemed to work quite well last year. So just keep it going. I don't know why teams and clubs do this sometimes. They feel like because they've signed someone, they've got to make it work. Like just make this new player work his butt off and basically have a spot. Don't just gift it in a way and change your whole backline because Bostock's only just still learning the NRL. I don't think he's ready for center. I don't think he's there yet. So I'd personally keep Averillo there. I'd have Nicarima back in the halves, and that's probably how I'd run out round one for him because I just wasn't sold at all on the weekend. They just seemed to be missing something. They didn't really ever get going. Now, the other point to that is, mate, there's some teams out there that might have a bigger training week this week and just sort of write that weekend away and go, yeah, whatever happens on the field happens, and then prioritize their almost last week of training in a way. So that might have happened at the Dolphins. We're not too sure because they did just look really off. It was just a very weird game after last week being the complete opposite.
Yeah, I don't really know what to think about the Dolphins after those sort of games because it's like, I have good raps on them. I don't think they're going to do poorly, but it's a transitional phase for them now because obviously post Bennett side. Yeah, it's a weird one when you start moving these players around, especially Bostock. Like he come into the scene last year
Rookie of
with,
the year on the
as
wing.
a rookie,
Killed
yeah,
it.
and killed it. And and he killed it because he had such a good class center. What? Has Herbie got a Dally M center yet? Because he's probably due one. Um, you've got him on the inside of that. So it's like, all right, cool. On that side of things, the reason why Bostock was so well is because he had Herbie Nut next to him and it short him up a lot. And he let him play his game and just score his tries like he's good. We're going to move him into the centers now to blood another winger outside him who's, as green as Bostock is at the same time. Like it just doesn't sound like a good idea. But then you're going to move Herbie over to Azarko's side where all of your experience is down that end now. It's just gonna. I just feel like it's just very unbalanced. It's gonna leave them so exposed. You're just gonna get outplayed. But I would just leave it as it was last year. Like nothing went wrong. If anything, the right center was probably the worst slot out of it, and that was Averillo, because it really hindered what Azarko could do at the same time. So yeah, I don't know. I think they're trying to just find a spot for Averillo at this stage. Um, he's a good player. I just don't know where he fits into that Dolphin side and to complement anyone. Like he's sort of when I see him out in the centers, it seems like he doesn't want to do too much with his winger, or he gets caught out, or he doesn't have the sort of pace that they need. But he's friggin' quick at the same time. But then you put him in the 5'8s, and it just doesn't work. So I just don't know about Averillo. I'm not too sure where he goes in that side or what the go is. But yeah, like when you start talking, halves combinations, and like a lack of confidence in them, you think about the Dragons and this and that. Man, I think the Dolphins have some worries if something's going to happen there. We don't know what Katoa's 6 is going to be. He can't do it all himself either. He's that young and still developing a really good game out of inside. But I just don't want him to sort of, halt in a way because he's had to do too much, or it's a combination that keeps changing next to him. There's nothing for him to build on.
Do you feel
Yeah, I
like
think
this was maybe a pre-planned thing before? Actually, I can't even say that because Fuller was injured before last year even ended. So No,
Yeah,
don't worry about the point I was about to make because I was going to say maybe it was a way to get Hammer into the center, Fuller into the team, and then Ava just feeds them ball basically. But that doesn't make any sense
yeah.
whatsoever. So just
I
I'll
suppose
edit
it
this
would
one
have
out.
it would have worked well had it actually happened.
Yeah,
Maybe it's the
yeah.
new coach is just trying to put his stamp on things and just see what combinations work with his style, and obviously the trials are what they're there for. So,
Don't
try a few
overthink the
things
room,
here
all
and
I say.
yeah, just do what works. You had a whole season to watch him play and, saw how it works and worked
Yeah.
quite well for him. But yeah, I don't know about the Finns. Hey, I think they'll do okay, but I think it's just going to take him a little while. Just stick with Nicarima. Seems to work the best.
I tell you what, you might have a headache over the Dolphins, but I think there's one team that you've got a real big headache over at the moment, and that is your mighty Sydney Roosters.
Oh,
I don't think they have shown anything whatsoever these trials. And again, guys, we know they're trials. We don't need you to tell us, but we can only comment off what we've seen. And so far, Jesse, I'm sorry to tell you,
not good.
that's looking worse than I originally thought at the moment. And there's so many points to talk to about. We've already mentioned the forwards that need like a Terrell May there. They just let him go. There's a huge gap, it feels like, in the forwards at the moment. The halves are a huge concern for mine. I don't think Townsend is anything like the player they thought they were getting.
Mm,
He just seems so far off the pace at the moment, and it's even a trial. Like this isn't even NRL level quality. So from mine, a half should be able to do their stuff and get by, but he looked like he was struggling just at this trial pace. I hate to see what happens in the NRL. Sandon Smith, he sort of did have that odd game or two towards the back end of last year. I think there was one finals game where he absolutely killed it as well in the
mm,
final series. But he's still learning himself, and it's going to be hard for him now because he's going to effectively, and we've mentioned this so many times this off season, with Townsend there playing the way he is, he's the go-to guy, Sanders Smith. So it's going to be really hard for him to all of a sudden take this glamour club, make it his own, and go, yep, let's go. Because even he, for mine, struggled a little bit today. The big one and the worrying sign for, I guess, you and Roosters fans is Teddy, because I've continually said it from a Supercoach point of view or just NRL. I don't like Teddy whenever he has too much to do. And again, today, he looked like he had too much to do and it affected him a lot. And it just completely takes away the Tedesco that we know and love and what we got back
yeah.
to last year with him. I don't know where to go with you, Jesse. I don't know what to bring
Yeah.
you positivity wise because I was watching today and I don't know how much of the game you got to catch. I know you got to see some of the later games, but it was eye opening.
Yeah, it's not good. And we knew it was going to be like this. It's not surprising, to be honest. I suppose it is surprising in a way how mad they get belted by the Knights. But um, look, it's a trial. You got to just read into it for what it is. They're going to lose a lot, man, this year, I
Mm.
think. Genuinely. I think that we're going to have to wait until Walker's back to really see the best of Sandon Smith. Townsend's not going to help him
Walker's
a
on.
lot. Oh, mate, we're just going to wait for Walker to come back. And that's what, round 14, 15, somewhere in the halfway through the year.
Yeah,
Um,
if that. He won't be the same
exactly.
player for a
Exactly.
few
And
weeks after that as well.
I don't expect him to be the same player for the whole season when he's back. I reckon
Yeah.
it's going to just be a fizzled out end of the year and, go into next year positively because that's kind of what this year, we're just got to write it off as bad as it sounds. And the season hasn't even started yet. I'm talking about writing the year off. Like it's so bad. I don't want to go that far into it. I don't think it's that bad. I don't think the Dire Straits not going to come last. But it's not the Roosters that we're sort of used to. But yeah, underperforming, man. To be fair to Sandon Smith though, 199 meters run, most out of anyone that game.
Yeah, he made a 80-meter intercept as well in that.
Well,
So
that'll
that was
do it.
decent.
I'll take
So
that. Yeah, take that. Just
he
going through.
did
I was like, damn, that's some big ass numbers, man. What are you even
yeah,
doing?
no, he was running the footy a fair bit, so that was good to see of him. He was trying to be dangerous and stuff. So I say I'm not paying him out at all. I think he's obviously one of the only things you got there at the club at the moment. I just hope
Yeah,
his good games far outweigh his average games, getting used to things. And I just think Townsend, he was there to probably help. He's done anything but that so far from what I've seen from him in the last couple of weeks. It's sort of made
yeah,
things worse.
yeah. I suppose he kind of just got thrust into the position by chance, really, wasn't it? Like, I
Yeah.
don't think when they signed him, it was just, oh, we'll just have him there in the background, sort of just chipping away, and then all of a sudden, ACL later, he's starting and he will be starting for majority of the season. Kind of no one really wanted or expected that to happen, I would say. So,
Mm.
look, it's just he's not a young fella. You know what I mean? Like he's got experience and he's got that sort of stuff. He had. Maybe it comes back through during the season. Maybe they work it out. It's still quite new. There's a lot of changes in there as well. So, it's still very early days on this brand new, essentially club rebuild they've sort of got to do. But yeah, I want to try and go into it positively, and just a bit of hope that it's not as bad as I think it'll be, but a bit of realism about it. I don't think they're gonna find it too easy to win games this year. But yeah, just
Well,
Tedesco was the point. Um,
mm,
of course he's going to overplay his hand. He's going to see how much the freaking walls are falling over around him. Like he's got to be like, oh well, shit. If this is the way that the game's going to be, I've got to pull out some Teddy magic and do what I do best. Um, he doesn't have the luxury of Rio Hargraves standing in front of everyone, chopping them up, and then Sam Walker putting in the kicks and Manu doing his fancy flicks. Like he just doesn't have that anymore. So he's got to work out his own game too, because a lot of it is going to revolve around him.
yep. No, I agree with that one. So interesting to see how it unfolds, and it'd be interesting to see what this round one team is for the Roosters. That's the big thing. I think a lot of us are waiting to see again from a Supercoach point of view as well as an NRL point of view. The Knights, they last week bagging them. I wasn't impressed at all with them. This week, completely different Knights team came out. Credit to them. Got to give them credit. We'll go both ways of the fence every time. We won't shy away from that. So this week, they get a lot of credit. I'll come back and say to you, it's only a trial, though. You all said it last week, so I'll say it back at you. It was only a trial against a depleted Roosters side, and they were absolutely shot. But the one thing I want to talk about when it comes to the Knights, this Ponga and Sharp combination. Now,
Oof.
I'm starting to warm up a bit more towards this Sharp at 5'8", and I'm so glad I got him in the draft because I think he's in
Mhm.
for a huge year. He was sensational. This combination, I'm going to say it now, this could become the most potent dual combination in the game. This is ridiculous. This could be attacking plus both of them around the ruck, getting offloads in and around tired forward packs. If you got to coach this, you would be licking your lips going, I'm onto a winner here. Like, how good's this? Any half chance to either of them, they turn into full breaks, they turn them most likely into tries. This combination, bro, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, they're going to keep Adam O'Brien in a job. Sorry, guys.
Ponga's got a sidekick now. It's all good.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's quality, man. So yeah, you reckon this is the best 1 and 6? This outdoes Pappenhausen and Munster?
No, just in terms of genuine excitement. I'm not going to
But
say this
yeah, as a
like
combo.
actual like
Yeah,
a combo as a combo. Like this could be fire emoji galore.
yeah. Well, the
Anytime
Knights
they play, like
backs, they are like that all the time anyway. Like that's one of the best things about the Knights in general is like how bloody good their backs are. You look at Marzu, you got Best inside him, you got Gagai, Schiller now as well. But they had Dom Young out there who was just insane, and they had Fletcher Sharp there on that right side as well last year, and he just scored tries for fun. Um, yeah, now look, if they're gonna fix up the massive problem that they've had with their halves, and Fletcher Sharp's the answer, then freaking hell, man, they've got a lot of things they're doing right. Like they're that side of the game for them anyway, like the attacking side, especially with Ponga humming. They're very hard to beat on that side of things, man. Like they will score tries for fun. Their games will be very exciting to watch. They'll probably lose those games at the same time, but they'll score 20 tries. Like it's a good game of footy. So
yeah,
um, yeah, man, it's really good. Like it's always nice to see. I suppose when a coach makes this change and it gets a lot of criticism. I suppose as a coach that does get as much criticism as he does. Yeah, if it pays off, it's like, well, shit, that's pretty good, isn't it? But yeah, Fletcher Sharp's got a big future, man. And I think if anything happens to Ponga, they've just got this seamless little transition. But hopefully not, because if Fletcher Sharp is the six they need, and then something happens to Ponga, and they have to move Sharp into fullback, I don't doubt that he'll kill it. But then it just makes this issue again.
yeah,
Who are the halves? You know what I mean? And then what happens then? So yeah, it's a lot of
yeah,
reliance on him. But he come from nothing last year. Like I suppose he was always in the system, but yeah, he's really put his foot down, hasn't he?
yeah. And one final shout out for this game. I just want to talk quickly on Jack Cogger because He copped a bit last week, probably rightly so. It wasn't one of his best games at all. But again, looking back at it, I don't think any Knights players can put their hand up and say, I killed it last week. They were all very ordinary. I think he actually played his role perfectly today. And this is all that he needs to do this year. This is all we need their halfback to do this year. You've got two attacking weapons and one of the best fullbacks in the game, if not some people rate him as the best fullback in the game, depending on where you want to go with that. I'm not opening up that debate at the moment, guys. We're not here to do that. But some people out there do rate Ponga that highly. If not, he's one of the most attacking players in the game. We can all say that. And now we've just spoken about how exciting and naturally gifted Buddy Sharp is as well.
Yep.
He just has to navigate that. He just has to literally know when to give the ball to him or when to just go under to a forward just to get me that next 10 or so meters, set up for the next one. And that's what he did perfectly today. He wasn't a standout. He wasn't a 9 out of 10 game. He was probably a 7, 7.5, but he just played his role. He just did what he needed to do. And that's all he has to do all year. And Adam O'Brien and the Knights, stick with this 7 and 6. Stick with it, please.
Yeah, well, let your guns be guns, you know what I mean? If he's just going to be the guy to let, sort of direct them, let them play their game as good as they can play it, why would you mess with that? I feel like, yeah, if you're going to change it and all of a sudden if Gamble's selected like round one, I'm just going to be going all over again. It's the same thing all over again. Just let what they done today, let that shine through for the season if you really wanted to go anywhere with this side, because they will. That combo really will work long term. So,
yeah, I agree. Finally, for tonight, obviously we just had the Cowboys Storm game on. A combination that you have been huge on for years now, especially from a Supercoach point of view. Did and Drinky combo. We talk about combos and exciting ones. These are right up there as well, and they were on today. That we spoke about a Supercoach at the start of the episode, but when the Storm had more of their full strength stars on, their full strength players on, I think you caught it a little bit of this game as well, but they were on. They looked really, really good at the start, and that was very positive signs because, again, they're a team that we've spoken about. Early draw isn't great, but if they can come up with these sorts of plays and stuff against these, they're both world-class players. So if they're versing these oppositions, confidence is high because they killed it.
yeah, well, it's a trial. You have to put that out there. It's a trial.
Trial.
We all know. But yeah, man, it's not an easy task taking out Melbourne. But yeah, dude, they started early. They started hot. They've been great for ages. It feels like now. Honestly, both of them, like they're just so solid. I can't speak any higher praises of Drinkwater in general, but I think Dearden, to Trav's 1,000 points that he's always said when it comes to Tom Dearden, man, he's going to really step up. He has to step up. Like this is kind of his side now. He's been given the reins, but I suppose the other side of things is what happens with the 7. Is it a Clifford or a Duffy thing? But I don't think they've got too much to worry about because Dearden's just so good in his role, and Drinkwater's flawless most of the time when you watch him play a game. Yeah, like we kind of tip the Cowboys to struggle early on, and I think they probably still will. They'll have those, hiccups, and they'll have the hurdles that they've got to overcome. But yeah, you can't deny the quality of those two dudes, man. Drinkwater's just unfortunate that he's, in a generation of quality fullbacks, he's not going to get selected for anything, but he should be. He's right up there with all of the things that he's ever done for him. So, yeah, I rate him, man. Like those two, very good individually. For the side, they're just going to got to keep up. It sort of makes their attack a little bit predictable in a way, because you kind of know what's going to happen. Is Dearden going to do this? Is Drinkwater going to do this cutout? But yeah, look, it worked today, and they'll just have to run into the season like this and just keep rolling with it because they've got some good young talent now. Really young talent's coming through. Duffy has obviously popped his head up. Jackson Purdue as well. He's another one that everyone's sort of got the look in.
Huge today.
Yeah,
Huge.
massive. Couple of tries as well. So everyone's been paying a lot of attention to these well, for Supercoach side, all the cheapies that are coming through. So there will be a lot of pressure on, even just from the fans, basically because of the Supercoach side. But yeah, they'll do well with it, man. They've got some good players around them. It's just what happens with Peyton and what does he do with that team when they start losing games, because they will have those problems eventually in the season. Like they're going to have to. You never get a good run for forever, and they do have a hard start. So yeah, just have to see how they kick off and how they sort of overcome that adversity too with all the youngsters.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, Drinkwater and Dearden can definitely steer the ship for the season comfortably together.
Just on the Storm, I'm not too worried, to be honest with you. The only thing I'll mention is this is now 2 weeks in a row they've conceded 36 points. So they conceded 36 to the Warriors last week, 36 to the Cowboys this week. Now, I know you can look at their teams and things like that and make cases. Again, they did have a number of first grade players starting this game today, and that's when the Cowboys scored a lot of their points, which will be of concern for Craig Bellamy. So I think he will look at this and say, I don't care who's playing in this Melbourne Storm jersey. We don't concede that many points. Like, we don't need to score points. I get that. I'll take that, but we don't concede them either. We don't let those sorts of points in. So I've got no doubt he'll grill them. He won't be happy that they've conceded now 72 points in the space of 2 weeks when, yep, they haven't had their full strength lineup, but neither have the teams that they're like Warriors last week. They went full strength. Cowboys today, they were getting there. Yeah, they were pretty much full strength, and they did put on a show. But again, they put on the show when the Storm had their stronger players there as well. And now Pappy and Hughes weren't there, and they'll be huge. But yeah, that's the only little concern there, is that he won't be happy with that, and no doubt they'll probably come out now and probably not concede a point for the first month of footy.
I was going to say that. I was actually going to say I'd hate to be playing the Eels in the first round because they're not scoring a try next week.
Yeah.
When it comes to that round one, yeah, they're absolutely going to hold them out big time. And I think that's probably the point that Bellamy will be making. Hey, it's just we don't concede this many tries. Even the reserves, they don't. But you look at the results of the preseasons, and it's just been essentially an upset for every game. So they are what they are in a way. But yeah, it's just for such a well-oiled machine. And I think for Bellamy's pride, he wouldn't want to take a loss, even if it did mean nothing. I know I don't like losing even friendlies. You just don't want to lose a game. So, yeah, he'll definitely be setting them in their way for round one. I can pretty well be assured of all that stuff. So, but yeah, it is. I'm not really going to say it's worrying, to be honest. I'm still calling the Storm the favourites to do everything, even if they are getting smacked 36 2 weeks in a row. I don't think you can put them on the radar of anything. If they conceded 50, I'd probably still be like, they're still winning. They're still going to win the comp. It is what it is. But
I agree.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, I'm with you, mate. I am with you. And with that, that is our wrap up. Trial week 3, plus a little bit of Supercoach spice to start you off there as well. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed our coverage of trials. We'll be back. Next weekend will be a huge show because we'll be coming off about 8 hours of football nonstop. So very keen to get into that one, talking all things Vegas round and how that worked. But again, we've got a huge lineup of shows coming this week. Really keen to get that to you. With the live show, I forgot to mention one thing. So with YouTube, you've got to make sure you subscribe so you get the notification that we have gone live. And with Facebook, make sure you follow it. And I think if you like it, you'll get a little notification when we do go live as well. So make sure you don't miss it and set an alarm. Come and be part of the first show of the year. Make it a big one. We are we're really, really keen to get this up and running. But Jesse, you survived, mate. Another big weekend. I'm putting you on a lock now. You're not allowed to go out for the next month. You need to be locked down and get yourself ready for Magic Round, which will be your next outing. I'm going to allow you to do that one.
So. Yeah, it probably will be, actually. I'll make a point of that. I'm not going to do anything else between now and Magic Round. I don't want to anymore. Please, I'm hurting. Can't do it anymore.
Too much for this. Thank you, guys. Vegas round is now officially started through us, through the page. Cannot wait. We will catch you again shortly, Tuesday night. See you there.